back. I was quickly saying there's this WBUR story on Point called How We Grieve or something like that, which is about, it's basically Tom Ashbrook, the host, had his wife die a few months ago, and it's him sort of going through this grief process on air, and it's all these callers talking about how they've lost a son to suicide or a mother to cancer or stuff like that. It's really, really remarkable stuff, so I recommend checking that out. What else? I think that's that for sort of Netflix and streaming stuff, but Skeleton Twins, that was good. So a lot of good stuff. Read the best of 2014 lists and watch stuff you haven't seen, because there's a lot of really good movies that came out this year. A couple other things. A book, I picked this up in Los Angeles last month, and it's by this queer comic artist, Maurice Velacoop, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He did the artwork for the No Strings Attached, I think it's called, or No Straight Lines. It's a queer anthology of like the 70s till the 90s, maybe something like that. And he just does really awesome work. I mean, a lot of it is very campy, or it's stuff that deals with coming to terms with identity, but the artwork is fantastic. Like, there's this one section of, if I can find it, it sort of does jazz or opera or stuff like that, and these sort of montages. Really pretty stuff, really great art. I read this on the plane from Long Beach to Austin when I was flying back. It was like $17, I think. But one of the better art books I picked up in a long time. Other things, books. I checked this out from the library. It's the Lena Dunham memoir, autobiography. It's not totally great. There's some moments where I'm like, this is really just boring and pretentious, and why do I care? It's the sort of same criticism you get of Lena Dunham a lot of the times, but also there's very poignant and prescient insights into what it's like to be a young person nowadays. She's a couple years older than I am, and a lot of the stuff about, reflecting on college or whatnot she gets right, but there is an acknowledged class element in her upbringing that she doesn't really have a great perspective on reality. So I get confused or even angry sometimes with some of the perspectives she has. I can't relate to them, but overall it's pretty good so far. I was gifted this book, Black Hole by Charles Burns. It's supposed to be one of the best sort of graphic novels that come out in the past decade or so, maybe more than that. It's really surreal. I don't really know what's going on yet. I'm about halfway through. But the art's pretty. It's all black and white, and there are some really cool toying around with layout design and framing of, there'll be there's these 4 columns where you have on the top one sort of narrative happening on the bottom, this internal narrative, and it's really cool the way it blends it together. There's supposed to be a film adaptation that's been in the works for a decade, and there's a short, a 9-minute short online that kind of spoils it. So if you want to read the book, I wouldn't recommend watching that. But if you type in Black Hole in the Wikipedia, you'll probably find the short. Other books. Oops. I got this. It's called I Loved You More by Tom Spanbauer. He's the initiator of this style of writing called dangerous writing, which is just sort of a modern stream of consciousness. It's very personal and very reflective. I don't really know what's going on yet because I'm very early into this book, but it's a love triangle between a gay man who's the narrator, a guy that was in one of his classes at Columbia, and then this girl that they meet somewhere. There's a book trailer online I'd recommend finding. It's 1.5 minutes long, and it's just crushing. And so that's what drew me to this book. It's also got the author of Wild, the movie which is out right now in theaters, wrote a blurb for the front cover, so maybe that'll give you an insight into kind of the level of emotional whatever that this book operates in. I think that's the last book. Checked out Tootsie from the library. Eager to get through this. If you haven't been able to tell, I'm on kind of a queer movie kick, and Tootsie is sort of in the middle of the AIDS crisis and in sort of pre-third wave feminism and just kind of the women's movement generally in the 80s. It's a pretty exciting movie for Hollywood to put out. So I'm excited to go through that as an adult because I haven't seen it since I was like 10. But then on to actual movies, stuff I picked up over the holidays. Grand Budapest Hotel. I love this movie. I think it's Wes Anderson at his most Wes Anderson-y. The cast is ridiculous. Like you'll have like Tilda Swinton in here for 2 seconds, Jeff Goldblum for a couple minutes. So it's awesome. But this movie's great. I got it for free from work. There was a promo that got sent to the theater apparently a few months ago, and no one picked it up. So I was like, "Can I have it?" And they said, "Sure." So free movies. Some stuff I got for Christmas. I think these were all things my family picked up on my request. I made a big list at Black Friday. They didn't get everything on the list, but they got a good chunk of it because they were like $4. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the David Fincher adaptation of the Stieg Larsson novel. The books are fun. I'm kind of disappointed that this series hasn't taken off. The Fincher series, I really would like the sequel because I think this movie is really, really good. It's especially for like a mainstream mystery movie. And it's pretty faithful to the book too. The Swedish trilogy I don't really like that much. I've tried to get into them and I can't. The film trilogy, but I really like that version. So hopefully soon, maybe in a year or two, we'll start hearing some news about the second one. Breakfast at Tiffany's. I love Audrey Hepburn. I have a DVD collection that includes Breakfast at Tiffany's. Now I have it on Blu-ray. I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know the quality, but Breakfast at Tiffany's is one of my favorite movies. I love the Capote short story. Just really, really fun movie. One of those sort of movies that you don't need to be like a cinephile to love or anything. You can like it on so many different levels. So Lego Movie. This is one of my favorites of 2014. I watched it. I went to my alma mater had a Carl Sagal or Peter Sagal rather speak at the commencement. So me and my friends went to that, and afterwards we had a few drinks. It was kind of like a willy-nilly day, and we said, "Oh, let's go see a movie." Went to the sort of rerun theater, the replaying theater, and saw that movie, and we're just like blown away by how anti sort of business Marxist even it is. And so I mean, as a kid you could enjoy it for its bright colored visuals and the humor, but as an adult there's a lot of depth in there and a pretty biting satire on kind of where Western American society is. Western/American, not Western American. So watch it if you haven't seen it. I think it's so good. I got the first part of the 7th season of Mad Men. I still haven't finished the 6th season. I'll get around to it. I'm actually excited about this too because a lot of the the special features, there's 2 out of the 5 are about gay rights and gay power, and so I'm assuming queer struggles come into play in this, which I am excited about because there's a great book by John D'Amelio called Sexual Politics, Sexual Communities, which deals with a lot of 50s, 60s even, more 40s, 50s, urban life, basically San Francisco and New York for queer people. And so I was been kind of disappointed that Mad Men has only tapped into it here and there, talking about how someone got caught in a department store bathroom or when they fired Sal in the first couple seasons. Sorry if you haven't seen Mad Men. Yeah, so we'll get into that. Pacific Rim, I think this is great. It's actually pretty deep too. I remember renting it and getting a lot of, the disc itself is pretty deep. There's a lot of special features. Guillermo del Toro is just one of those guys, those nerds that puts everything out there. If you haven't seen Pacific Rim, I'd recommend it. It's really fun. It's what I think more action movies need to be. There's so much more going on than just robots fighting monsters. There's, that's the core of what it is, and it's done well, the action scenes, but they sort of treat it like a comic book in a good way. So watch it if you haven't. A Single Man. This is the Tom Ford, the fashion designer, directed this adaptation of the Christopher Isherwood novel of the same name. The novel's great. It's like this big. You could read it in a day or two. And this movie is beautiful. It's got a what's the name of the guy? The score, Abel Korzeniowski. He has done a bunch of film scores. I can't think of any off the top of my head. He did one for the, what's it called, 6 Hours, I think, which is like maybe a W.H. Auden or W.E. I don't know. But he does a lot of really beautiful orchestral work, and so there's all these really cool scenes, like, you know, of the protagonist sort of like in murky water, and he's in the nude, and you've got this like golden sort of aura around him from the way the light's shining through the water, and the music, this sort of piano score that is playing, and it's just really good. Really, really faithful adaptation of a really great book, so worth seeing. And it was like $3, so it's probably easy to find. The Wolverine. I think this is one of the better comic book movies that's ever come out. That may be a controversial statement, but if you watch the movie, you'll notice a lot, especially in the sequence, maybe 2/3 into the movie, where Logan and the granddaughter go out into this like seaside setting. Very, very obvious nods to Ozu, and there's a lot of really cool hints towards like film nerds who might be watching the movie. So yeah, it is a superhero movie. Yeah, it is an action movie. And it operates like a Hollywood blockbuster, but if you read between the lines, so to speak, there's a lot of amazing shit happening. So for a superhero movie, it's up there in my opinion with, you know, Avengers and the first couple Batmans and what have you. And then finally, The Wolf of Wall Street, Scorsese film from I think last year or 2013, but way over the top. It's just so well acted, so well written. The story is just batshit insane. You don't know what's like how people like this exist, and I'm sure there, you know, it's obvious that people didn't have lions probably in their offices, but it's still pretty. Speaking of lions, here's my cat. It's a pretty interesting insight into what's going on, especially with how Wall Street is such a prominent figure in the United States economy, at the very least, if not the global economy. These I got, mostly I got for Christmas. Some I bought for myself. These are the Criterions I picked up. First one I got was Paris, Texas. Still haven't watched it. I know that that's like a mortal sin. Apparently it's amazing. I like Pina. It's the only Wim Wenders film I've seen that I know of. I might have seen more. But yeah, it's one of those movies that when I get into the right frame of mind I want to watch, because it's apparently fairly Spartan. And it's supposed to be excellent. I don't want to... Movies that have a strong reputation, I like to make sure that I give them their due diligence. If I'm like in a kind of tired mood or whatever, I'll put on something fluffier, maybe like The Wolverine or something. So I'll get to that one soon. I still haven't seen it. Safe. This is one of the newer Criterion releases from Todd Haynes. It's supposed to be one of the best films, if not the best film of the 90s. I watched it. I don't know if I could agree with that assessment. It's good. Julianne Moore is always great in everything she does. It's a sort of an allegory for the AIDS crisis, and you can see that. There's also some sort of satire at play with 90s sort of boom bust, the boom part of the boom bust cycle of the 90s. So really, really, maybe absurd is a better word than surreal, but lots of just weird shit going on, and not like in a sort of Todd Solondz way, but I don't know. The satire is there, and I know it's there. The film needs to be rewatched. Maybe I need to listen to the commentary or something, but yeah, it's okay. I will say the one thing that disappoints me, though, is there's nothing on the fucking disc. You have an essay, a trailer, okay, great, but then you have a short film, the audio commentary, a conversation between Haynes and Moore, which is also on YouTube, and then an interview with one of his assistants. So it's like not... I mean, if you're going to pay $40, is that really worth $40? So... whatever. Y Tu Mama Tambien. This is the Alfonso Cuarón film from, when was it? Yeah, 2001. Emmanuel Lubezki did the cinematography. He does a lot of the Terrence Malick movies. He's done other stuff like Children of Men, I think, with Cuarón. This is Mexican cinematographer who's maybe the best in the business right now. He did Gravity. I got an award for that. This set is the inverse of Safe. It's very deep. There's a lot of special features on here. Big booklet that comes with it, full of essays. Slavoj Žižek has a feature on here where he's talking about how Cuarón has all these subtle hints at Mexican politics and the sort of tumultuous nature of Mexican society and the relationship to the government, with all the stuff that's happening in the background. I watched Y Tu Mamá También on IFC channel when I was like 13, and I thought it was brilliant, and I still think it's great. And the depth of the features included on that package are phenomenal, and I'm so happy to have this. I think it's one of the better, newer sets from Criterion outside of like, you know, the Tati box sets or the big releases. So I would put that up there with like Eraserhead and whatnot for best releases of the year. Speaking of, I think I might have talked about this in the last video. If I did, I'm sorry. But The Big Chill, also a fairly deep set. You know, pretty solid chunk of features listed there. I actually still haven't finished it. I mean, I've watched this movie a bunch in my childhood because it's probably my mom's favorite movie. And it is great, and I love the soundtrack, but every time I watch it, I want to get like stoned and drunk because that's what they always fucking do. And I guess I'm just like, you know, that impulse you get when you want to like watch Godard movies to smoke cigarettes or something. So, great movie. I think I talked about it, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore. 8.5, got this one for Christmas. I still have not seen it. I think I will like it, just because it's based on the sort of the making of a film, kind of. And I love when people have that kind of self-awareness. And I've never seen anything by Fellini that I can that comes to mind. So it's another one of those ones, along with Paris, Texas, that I'm like, I need to give this its due diligence. I need to watch this when I'm in the right frame of mind, or it's going to go over my head. Life Aquatic. I sold the DVD a couple months back when I knew that the Blu-ray was coming out, and I just haven't upgraded it because normally I've been on an upgrading kick, or I'm like, I want to buy something like Safe or The Big Chill. And so I was glad to get this. Life Aquatic is just great. The soundtrack, the Seiyu Jorge, David Bowie songs are phenomenal. I love that scene at the end with Sigur Rós playing and the shark finally goes by. I mean, it's great. Finally, I finally upgraded the America Lost and Found BBS set. I got it for like $35. It was, you know, half off at Barnes & Noble, plus I had like a 20 or 30% off coupon, plus my 10% membership, something like that. I got it so fucking cheap. Like less than 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like less than $5 a movie, pretty much. This is, in my opinion, the best box set in the collection. Maybe the Three Colors trilogy could rival it. But just phenomenal films in here. You know, Head is pretty fun from the Monkees. Easy Rider is great. 5 Easy Pieces is really solid. I mean, the acting in there is notoriously great from Jack Nicholson. Drive, he said, also a great Nicholson-related piece. Safe Place I haven't seen. Oops, or maybe I have. Let's see, which one was Safe Place? I don't think I've seen A Safe Place. If I have, I don't remember it, so... and then Last Picture Show, which is, much like The Big Chill, is a film from the 80s talking about the 60s. Last Picture Show is one from the 70s talking about the 50s. And so, that's always fun. King of Marvin Gardens, I haven't seen either, but, yeah, I love this set. I want to have, like, a weekend and just watch all of them, watch all of the special features. But, yeah, that's easier said than done. So that video is super fucking long. I'm sorry. I know that I talked really fast. I'm sorry. But I had a lot to get through. Definitely recommend checking out some of the books that I talked about, especially that Maurice Vellecoop. It's Vellekoop. He has a bunch of stuff out there. If not, just look at his stuff probably on like Tumblr. You could find comics. I think they're great. Y Tu Mamá También is probably the best Criterion thing that I picked up outside of the BBS set, which I had before on DVD, and that doesn't really count. Yeah, the On Point story from Tom Ashbrook about how grieving works. Lots of cool stuff I recommend you checking out. I don't like to just post these things as a sort of like masturbatory look at all the cool shit I got. It's really me recommending stuff. If there is something here that you would want me to go more in depth as a sort of review, like I've done before, I'm happy to fulfill that request. But for the time being, I'm going to shut this video off, and thanks for watching.